Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hello all and welcome to the EarthWorks podcast. This week I'm your host, Jack Higgins, and I have the pleasure of hosting a good friend of mine, Mr. Grant Bezek, the golf course superintendent for Rutgers University Golf Course. And I say I'm hosting him because he's at my house. Yeah, and we're hanging in the backyard on like a beautiful fall afternoon.
Who would have thought it'd be 80 degrees in almost November?
Oh, this is like a wonderful Indian summer. Indian summer, that's the term. It's probably not a good term anymore, but it's nice and warm in the late fall.
Leaves falling, finally getting some color to change. It was kind of a late change of color in most of the trees compared to most years.
Yeah, you're right. So, we've had, at least in Jersey here, and we've had weekly rain since Labor Day. It's rained every single weekend.
Always on Friday. Yeah,
every single weekend since Labor Day it's rained. But for the plants, things have kept really nice color. It's been a good season for growing in new seed and everything like that. We've been getting that timely rain, and like you're saying, it's 80 degrees and sunny out today.
Yeah, we were very fortunate this past season. Some other areas got a lot more rain than we did, and some of those weekends where there would drop 5, 6, 7 inches. I think a few of those we were lucky to only get 1 or 2, which really helped, especially during that stretch of the summer when it was pretty hot.
Yeah. So let's kind of let the listener know what you do and what's going on over there at Rutgers Golf Course.
Yeah. So first I'll kind of tell you a little bit about myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm not native to New Jersey.
Okay.
Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kind of started working on a golf course when I was 12 as a caddy at St. Clair Country Club. Went through their whole caddy program, kind of learned, etiquette, learned the game. That was back when there wasn't any range finders. You had to find the sprinkler, pace off the yardage. It was a little bit different time.
Wow.
Compared to now.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You did all that. You got trained that way.
It was a legitimate, caddy program. I can't remember how long it was, but you had to be trained for sure.
What years were that?
This was probably maybe 2004, 2005, I would say. So I did that for a year. And then,
were you double bagging? What?
No, honestly, at that age, because I was only like 12 years old, so I was just carrying one bag. I would say for the most part, but did that for a year, loved it, really kind of fell in love with the game, and then got a job at a little 9-hole public golf course called Frosty Valley, not too far from where I grew up. Family owned 9-hole course. And did everything from, washing carts, running the pro shop, then worked on the ground staff, in the summers of high school. And then, went to college at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It's funny, I studied criminology and political science. Never really thought of being a golf course superintendent as a career in all those years.
But you always worked in golf.
Correct. And it was probably about halfway through my undergrad that I realized, I didn't want to pursue, criminology and I wanted to go into golf, but I was already so invested. I just decided it was, probably in the best interest to finish that degree. And
did you have any other gigs in your life, or did you work interns in that field at all? Or
so yeah, my mom has actually. She's been a mental health nurse for at least 30 years, and she got me an internship as a hospital police officer at the hospital she worked at. My probably sophomore year of college. That was actually a really cool experience, to be honest. really enjoyed it. I have, so much respect for, everything they do, and it was definitely, it was great to go through that.
Okay. So not every single dollar you've earned has come from golf.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was volunteer, but.
All right, I got you. Well, anyway, so you went through with your undergrad outside of the industry. What happened after that?
I was actually, I graduated, and it was probably graduated. It was August, September. Kind of shifting towards the off season, and I just cold walked into the club at Nevillewood, and I put together a little resume with my my golf experience, and I remember I just dropped my resume off Ken Fleesick, who I ended up working for about 3 years.
Who's also been a guest of the podcast. Yep.
He was. I vividly remember this. He wasn't even there. I just dropped it off to. I just dropped it off. I may have just dropped it off on a desk. His desk, something left. Didn't hear anything for a month. Went back in. I remember there was snow on the ground. Then when I came back in, maybe like February, and came in, had another resume, dropped it, and met Fletch, landscape foreman, and he was like, told me that he would relay everything to Ken and whatnot, and about a week later, Ken reached out and invited me to come in, and kind of hired me as a guy on the crew, kind of / assistant in training, because I had kind of conveyed to him that this is what I wanted to do for a career, and wanted to go back to school possibly, and and just kind of see where it was going to go.
Yeah, and then it went.
Yeah,
you started. What you said, it was in the wintertime?
Yeah, so that was like February, and I started in March of maybe 2015.
And right after you graduated from IUP?
Correct.
Oh wow, dude.
Yeah.
So you had you were like, I'm getting the undergrad. I got a BS after my name, and but I'm full in on this golf deal.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, great. So full circle, you now work at Rutgers, and you told me you got your 2-year degree at Rutgers.
Correct. Yeah. I was very fortunate. While I was working. Rutgers program was great because it allows you to, still work at a club and then go there in class in just the winter time when, obviously the club you're working at might not need you. And
that's the signature of their program. I mean, and they've had decades of success with that.
Yeah.
And it is, you come out as a very well-trained superintendent.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It's a lot of information in a short amount of time. So you really have to take it seriously. You have to buy in, and it's a great experience.
Oh, that's cool. So so you did that. What years were that? That
was like 2016,
16, 17.
Yeah, 16, 17, and then
you were working at Nevillewood.
I was still in
that whole
Nevillewood.
time?
I had been there like 3 years now. I felt I was ready to kind of be an assistant superintendent, but I was working under 2 guys that were really, really good at their job, and
Tell me a little bit more about that time period, because even though you did have golf experience before that, that was when you really, I'd say, probably got christened into this whole golf industry thing.
That's so funny you bring that up, because when I left Frosty, or I had worked at Frosty Valley for about 10 years.
Wow.
It was, I want to say, 2005 to about 2014, somewhere in there, and I thought I knew everything about maintaining a golf course, not even just from the ground standpoint, but from the operations, outside operations standpoint, pro shop, and then I go to a place like Nevillewood, and it's a whole different animal.
That's right.
It's
Ken, I mean, I toot his horn all the time, but I'll do it again. He's top notch. I mean, top shelf guy.
Yeah.
Like top shelf guy, top shelf grass grower. And Nevillewood is a remarkable place.
Yeah, it's that place is always in immaculate shape.
And now shout out to Brian Flaherty, who's just started there this year, who's also a good buddy. Yeah, and I got to cruise around with him a couple weeks ago, and
that's really cool.
And it's just so awesome there.
Yeah, it's such a special property. It was kind of, it's funny. It was actually built the year I was born. In 1990. Well, it was probably built in 1990, 91. I believe opened for play in 92. But I mean, it's so rare that, Ken, that, he grew the course in with Jack Nicklaus signature, meaning, there's, I want to say 800 Nicklaus design courses in the country. Only less than 400 are signature, meaning Jack Nicklaus actually walked the property. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, I didn't know
that. And to be the only superintendent for, over 30 years is pretty remarkable.
Ken tells a remarkable story about Mr. Nicklaus, and in the podcast, so you can check that out. But anyway, more back to the specifics, and then we can move on because I want to hear more about Jersey.
Yeah.
But so you really you just learned so much different, or like some things that you had done 1,000 times before, you learned how to do better, or?
Oh no, it was just a whole nother level. The attention to detail, and just the amount of work that goes into maintaining. It's such a unique property because it's so spread out. If you travel the cart path from 1 to 18, it's like 7 miles. So, or maybe even more than that. It's pretty unbelievable.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's way cool. So, okay, so you. How did you exit from PA, from Nevillewood, and make your way over here?
Yeah, I just started kind of updated my resume and just started putting out there looking for assistant superintendent positions. I was kind of that AIT role, had done that for 3 years. Everything from fly mowing to spraying fairways to just across the board. I thank Ken because he put me with certain people that would train me in certain areas of irrigation, landscape, sodding, chemical, fertilizer, what we're spraying, why we're spraying it, those kinds of things. Like
you really
just
learned.
Taking it to the next level. And what was cool was I did a lot of that before my first year at Rutgers. So when I went to Rutgers, I had already had that on-the-job experience. And then that second year coming back and then reapplying everything else just is what really made me feel like I was ready. It came down to I was either going to go to the Olympic Club in San Francisco or Upper Montclair in Clifton, New Jersey, complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And just for various reasons, I ended up going to Upper Montclair. But it was, the best decision I ever made because I couldn't have asked for, a better mentor in Mike Brunel bringing me on board there.
Yeah.
And it was right at the cusp of, excuse me, a multi-million-dollar clubhouse renovation, turning a portion of the parking lot into the soon-to-be short game facility. I was literally there when we were ripping up the asphalt. And that was, all the way through, when it was open. So that was a really cool opportunity.
How many acres is that facility? Like, tell me about that.
Upper Montclair is
well,
pretty,
new short game that they put in.
So it's kind of basically what we did was I'd say eliminated, I don't know, but maybe 15% of the parking lot.
Okay.
And then I would say the entire short game facility was probably maybe somewhere in the 25 to 30,000 square feet.
Okay, yeah.
Not quite an
not
acre.
huge, a nice half an acre, but you were able to.
We were able to. Well, we were. So basically, the current putting green we expanded by 30%.
Oh, got it.
So that we stripped, expanded by 30%, completely rebuilt. And then the portion that was the parking lot became the chipping green, a new Better Billy bunker, 2 areas of approach, and then the entire complex surrounded by new fescue mounds to kind of screen, the whole area from the driving range, cart building. It was a really cool experience, and that was done. The architect was John Harvey, and it was done by LeBar Golf. So just
all
really
those connections that you were able to make.
Really small world.
Right.
I'll give a shout out to Mario Leonardo. He was the project manager for LeBar throughout our entire project, and then the following year would end up becoming an assistant superintendent at Upper Montclair.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I love this business, dude. I love this. So cool. Then you guys worked together for a couple years. How long were you over with Mike? At
I was
Montclair?
at Upper for, I want to say, about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that when you started applying for top jobs?
Yeah, I just really wanted that superintendent role, and
was it a hard process for you?
I definitely went. It was. I mean, and that's what I would, say to anybody that's looking to take that next step is, don't be afraid to, apply to jobs, get that experience in interviews, because I would say any superintendent interview I've ever been on has been completely different.
Oh, wow.
So you kind of,
you have to be ready for
you don't know what to prepare
things.
for. Exactly.
Yeah, you got to be ready for different stuff. What was what was the process like of getting the Rutgers job, and how long have you been there now?
Well, so prior to Rutgers, I actually was down at Brigantine.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
dude, my bad.
No, it's okay.
That place was so cool. You were only there for a year?
Yeah, like 13 months.
Okay.
But one of the only places in the country that you can play 18 holes of golf and walk to the beach in 15 minutes. And
dude.
No car needed. It's on a barrier island across from Atlantic City. There's one bridge on and off the island. It is really cool. It was actually founded in maybe 1901, early 1900s, and there was actually old kind of folktales that they said that because it's always blowing 30 miles an hour because it's completely surrounded by water, that a lot of the old tour pros like Walter Hagen, all those guys back in the day, used to go play Brigantine because they could get the wind conditions, and then they'd take a steamship across and play the British Open.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the tour probably led them towards that area within the spring. They came up through Augusta and Sea Pines there, Harbor Town, and they worked their way up, and then the middle of the summer they went out to the British, and they probably played Brigantine before they left.
It's really gone through, I mean, being a fairly old course over 100 years, it's gone through a lot of phases. It was owned by American Golf at one point. It's now owned by the city of Brigantine. So it's kind of seen so many different
Was it
things.
a private club at any point? I
don't believe so.
That's cool. It makes it even cooler. So here's a question I have for you. Before Rutgers, did you have any New Jersey experience?
No.
Okay, so let me tell you, you've gotten such a beautiful slice of each part of the state. Like, you went to Rutgers, first of all, so you had that whole college New Brunswick scene. Then you worked at Upper Montclair, and you had the North Jersey experience right in the heart of North Jersey. And then you went down the shore, and you lived at the beach and worked at the beach golf course, and then walked over, sat on the beach in the afternoon. You did the whole thing, man.
Yeah, I was very fortunate.
But really good.
It was it really all worked out because my fiance, she's from New Jersey. We met when I was at Upper Montclair. And so the whole year, or a little more than a year, I was at Brigantine. We were 2 hours long distance. That was really tough. And then the Rutgers job came up, and both of our leases were up, and I ended up getting the job. And then we moved in together in Somerville. We're both, 10 minutes from our jobs. It was it was pretty unbelievable how well it worked out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, so let's talk about the current golf course. Let's talk about Rutgers Golf Course. Tell me about it. Is it old? Is it?
Oh my gosh! So this is, most people don't. It's so funny. A lot of people don't realize that Rutgers University has a golf course. Number one, but number two, I mean, Rutgers is all about history. I mean, they're the 8th oldest institution of higher education in the country. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of confusion about Rutgers because of that it was a conglomeration of other colleges, of multiple colleges, I believe, at some point.
It was initially called Queens College, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
and that's what's super old.
Yeah, and it's over 250 years old.
Right.
And so, but as far as the Rutgers University Golf Course, it was actually originally founded in, I want to say 1894, and it was called the New Brunswick Golf Club.
Whoa.
And it was 4 men and 4 women, and they had this plot of land over in, I want to say, Livingston, and it was just 6 holes,
right?
And it was called the New Brunswick Golf Club. 4 men, 4 women. They were one of the founding members. Excuse me, not founding members. One of the earliest members of the USGA as a golf club,
which is of course in New Jersey as well.
Yeah, and later, about 3 years later, they expanded to 9 holes in that same area, and.
Is that your existing plot of land, or no? It's a different.
No, it's different. Yeah.
Okay.
So by that time, they had accumulated upwards of 100 to 200 members, and moved over to Piscataway near
where you are,
near River Road. Not exactly where we are.
Okay.
And they had a 9-hole course there, and then once they had expanded to that many members playing, they went to the current property. But unfortunately, in the Great Depression, I want to say it was 33, the club went bankrupt. Ooh. And Rutgers bought it for $15,000.
Oh.
And it's 130 acres on the east side of Hose Lane, and the west side of Hose Lane, where the driving range is, another about 30 plus acres where the just driving range short game area is. But so it wasn't until about 1960-61 when Rutgers brought in Hal Purdy to create the present day 18-hole design, which then opened in May of 63.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome history, dude.
So a lot of people don't realize that, and it's probably because it was in a different location over on the Livingston campus, but really cool fact.
Okay, so when you say Livingston, you mean the Livingston campus.
Well, it was like Livingston Avenue, I believe, is where it was.
Right.
I'll be honest, I've never actually
been over there, but it's not far. Is
correct.
My point.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all it's within
18. You can hop on 18, and it's a half mile. You get off the next exit.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all within a mile, but this club kind of floated around on a couple different plots of land, landed where it is now, and very cool that the land-grant university, Rutgers, was able to scoop it up and save it.
Oh
really.
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah, for a steal.
Yeah.
For a steal, of course. But that they throw money into it, and they still do, right?
Correct.
We're
in the process right now, of really trying to, revitalize things. We're big on, honestly, inclusivity and accessibility.
Okay,
Those
cool.
are two things that we're about. Inclusivity. When you juniors, seniors, staff, faculty, students, alumni, residents of Piscataway, you name it, you're welcome. That's what we're about. And then not only that, but accessibility, because, and I think you wanted to touch on this, but, talking about just college, university golf courses in general.
Right.
Not all universities, one, have golf courses, but two, not all of them are actually on the campus. I mean, I've seen students just, walking down the road with his bag on his back, taking the, large bus system that Rutgers has.
Sure.
I mean,
I love that.
I mean, just
Penn State does have that.
Correct.
And it's way cool. It's a way cool thing, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally accessible. So all of that inclusivity and accessibility, that amounts to what, like 40,000 rounds in 9 months?
Correct. That is we do a lot.
Yeah,
but
because you do a hard close, you told me too.
Yep.
In the winter.
Yep. Probably about a week or two before Christmas we close, and weather depending, we open up sometime in March.
Still allows a lot of it. Well, that's what allows it to function for everybody, because I imagine you get a lot of work done during that time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's funny because you would think doing that many rounds, it would be kind of slow rounds, but one thing that we actually do value is pushing a 4-hour round. So you're not going to go there and kind of be waiting and taking a long round. It's we're pretty on top of that.
I love it. Yeah, and it's so awesome that you have that demand, like that there's the amount of people out there that want to keep playing. That's great. And that you're able to then provide.
Yeah, I would say we have a good 20 to 30%, maybe even more, of those rounds are regulars, people that have been playing here for a long time, really enjoy the course. It's kind of funny, on the weekends, you go through the parking lot, you see tons of New York license plates. We have a lot of people from Staten Island that come over. It's not
not far at all. Yeah.
We really do get a good mix.
It's great.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about the golf course itself. Like, what's the style of it? What's unique about it? How does it play? All that stuff.
Yeah, so, not crazy long, little over 6,300 yards from the tips, from the Scarlet Tees.
The Scarlet Tees.
There are lots of trees, that have I think probably maybe changed the golf course over the years, but we're trying to slowly kind of remove those and maybe get it back to what it was, just on some of them where they're encroaching some of the green surrounds, but narrow fairways. We try to provide pretty quick greens, but not nothing crazy. To be honest, most of the people, and that's the thing is, we're trying to tailor to everybody. Anyone from a member of the men's or women's golf program that want to come out and practice or play, and then also your individual who may be coming out for the first time.
Yeah, and what was the mantra? What were those two? The mission statement there, inclusivity and accessibility.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mission. Like, and the style of golf is important, to consider in that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're saying. You want it to be accessible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the cool thing is, and these are some things we're kind of looking over, and we're kind of looking at multiple master plans for the future. There's definitely some very bright things in the future. I'm not gonna touch on anything too specific, but we're definitely looking at all of our options, as far as the property, the driving range. We have a lot of property around the driving range, so there's definitely some good ideas and things flowing right now for the future.
I mean, also, just for anybody that hasn't been there, you're right next to the football stadium.
Correct.
I mean, like a pitching wedge shot from the football stadium.
Exactly.
So it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're right on the river, on the Raritan.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a really cool plot of land that you're on.
Yeah. Just a real quick touch on some of the history that's really cool. The original clubhouse prior to the present 18-hole golf course was actually used for General Washington to stay with him and his men, like back in the day. So it was there's some really cool history that goes along with it.
Love it. Yeah, it's awesome. Because like the Raritan Bay there, where you live, or where the golf course is like that was the central for it's essentially the bottom of the Hudson Bay. The Raritan and the Hudson meet at New York, and
whether it was to see enemies coming or goods coming and going. I mean, it was literally.
And then actually where you and I live right here is the first bit of like a highland, a little bit of mountain ridge that you could get up on and look down. You could get on the mountain behind us and probably see your golf course, or see pretty close to your golf course.
Yeah, and because it's funny you say that, because in this area there's not a lot of terrain. It's fairly flat, but once you get back over here, absolutely.
Right. It's Martinsville, New Jersey. Like there's kind of like the ridges of the Appalachian here do like a bit of a check mark, and they kind of like you look straight south, and right here, and that's where there was another Washington camp. I mean, basically the camp was the whole county.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he made his way through the whole state. I mean, all the way up to Morristown.
Washington's Crossing. Yeah, this whole area claims Washington. Which is all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, dude. Very cool. So, Grant, you told me 1963 is when they finished the 18 that you're working on now throughout the whole history of the club, but the property you're on now, 1963. So, what's the turf type there?
Yeah, so, tees and fairways are actually a combination of Lomo, Blue, Rye, Poa. There's a little bit of bentgrass. So,
Heinz 57.
4 out of the 5 par 3 fairways are 97% bentgrass. One of the par 3 fairways is 100% Lomo Blue Rye, and then the greens are bent and Poa, which is what I've always managed, pretty much across the board on greens, tees, and fairways, bentgrass, Poa, specifically Poa.
Sure, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and New Jersey.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Upper Montclair's Poa, I imagine, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're probably 50-50.
And you were probably Poa down the shore too.
Oh yeah, yep. Oh my gosh, that Poa is just so resilient. I mean, I can't even, and this is why I mean, kind of coming from Pittsburgh, people just, I don't want to say people, but, agronomists and superintendents, I feel like just embrace it because they know how invasive and how aggressive it is, and how it can also be an unbelievable putting surface. If you have, the resources to manage it, that's the biggest thing. But without a doubt, I mean, it's a good putting surface, but. So that bentgrass Poa on the greens, tees and fairways, just kind of I call the kitchen sink, a little bit of everything, but very little bentgrass with the exception of the par 3s. That was like the biggest difference for me on fairways and tees, was being mostly Lomo, Blue, and Rye. Obviously the Poa in there, in your your high traffic areas, but
so managing low, Blue, and Rye.
Kind of brings in the gray leaf spot aspect. That is on the top of my mind. In managing those, in managing that grass for sure.
Have you gotten nailed in the last 2 or 3 years?
No. We've been fortunate. I mean,
do you make those preventative apps? How early in the season? Because I know the real high pressure is when August, September.
Exactly, and that's funny because you certainly can see it and get it in the summer, but it's those hurricanes that kind of bring it up from the south, in those later summer months, early fall months. They can, when maybe you're, not, maybe I can get another week or another 2, or maybe not tank mix and just go with one fungicide, but no, certainly a thought on my mind for gray leaf spot for sure.
Is stay with some heavy hitters in the tail end of the season.
For sure.
Don't fall off your fungicide
Yeah.
program. Okay, that makes sense.
But but that it's I've actually really enjoyed it. You know, I think the biggest challenge is obviously all those grass varieties on the fairways kind of all grow at different speeds, and you know, but I think just getting, really the only downside I would say is you can't get ryegrass, bluegrass as dialed in as bentgrass poa, from a height of cut standpoint.
So what are you cutting at?
Fairways we're cutting at a 1/2 inch. Tees 375, and greens we're mowing at a 125.
Can they roll nice?
Oh yeah, no, I mean we'll dry them down, as much as we can for sure.
Well, tell me about the soil type as well. You had touched on that a little bit.
Yeah,
earlier.
I mean it's all clay and shale underneath that. It's not the greatest soil, but it's been around a while. It can the turf is used to it for sure.
The turf's used to it. It's built some good humus and some good topsoil in the top couple inches. And yeah, do you use a moisture meter?
You know what? We actually don't even own one.
Okay. Old school, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
you probably didn't use one at Nevillewood back then, or did you?
I want to say the two assistants.
It was only just coming on then.
Well, no, they were around. Like we had 3-4 of them, and we used them. We were, but just kind of in the summer. But I want to say when like I said, like I was still learning, in school, kind of learning water management. That's the biggest thing. Understanding, for hand water, whether you're hand watering, syringing, your soil types, those kind of things, and those are the things I was being taught. And I think the two guys that I worked under maybe wanted me to kind of go off feel and eyesight and kind of learn the right way, and not just kind of walk on the green, kind of poke around. All right, my average is 20, we'll call it good, which, and so because I learned that way, I think that's how I the kind of management style that I follow. But it's certainly a great tool and a good one to have.
Do you ever take readings in the fairways, or?
Well, so we don't have a TDR, but I actually utilize SPIO.
I'm sorry, you mentioned you didn't even have one. I'm sorry.
No, but I have SPIO, wireless soil monitoring devices.
Right.
That we keep in.
Are they attached to the near the irrigation head, or are they a separate?
No, it's a completely its own thing. It has a lithium-ion battery that can last 5 years. I mean, in theory, you could put it in the ground and not take it out for 5 years, and it's going to stream you data every 4 hours, 3 times a day, every day.
Where are they located on the golf course?
So I have them in. Well, we've recently removed them for verification, but we have them in 7 greens and just 1 fairway and 1 tee.
Cool.
Kind of ones that are maybe on the drier side. So when we get an idea what's working in those areas, we kind of get a good picture on what we need to do on the rest of the golf course.
Great tool.
Yeah, no, they're unbelievable. It's been a great tool.
And it is, I do believe it is so important to know, like you said, the look, the feel. I was when I was greenkeeping, but that stopped in 2009. Like we were John Chassard taught me how to pull a plug and feel it,
Yeah.
and feel that that plug. So, but to correlate that with some data, it just only teaches you even more. You only just are able to learn even more that way and kind of train the brain, train the plant,
Absolutely.
train the whole thing.
For sure. And kind of see how wetting agents work and those kinds of things.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. So you mentioned the low mow blue and the rye, but you've got these POA bent greens that you are more accustomed to. What's that surface like, and what's the root zone like as well? Are you guys shelled out there, or are you native soil?
So we are native soil push-up greens. There's no drainage in them. They're pretty much all clay. They've been slightly sand modified.
You
over
mentioned
the years.
you had a drill and fill going on recently.
Yeah, not we actually didn't even fill. this time of the year, most of my seasonal staff, we got to lay off. So we actually we just drilled out the clay, and then we removed all the clay, and then we went over top with another cultivation practice, our amendments, top dressed, and kind of went that route, just because the labor for the drill and fill process. But no, it's really just trying to modify that top, inch and a half, that thatch layer, try and firm these up.
Yeah, cool. And they roll nice. You can make that happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I want to say, honestly, I'm not one to.
You don't need to stimp every day.
I mean, yeah, to really stimp very much at all. I want to say when we were, at our peak yesteryear, we probably had them rolling like maybe 11, maybe a little over 11. So it's nothing fast, but it's fast for what people are normally used to.
And again, inclusivity, accessibility. Like you want a 4-hour round, you want people to come and enjoy, and that sounds like that's the speed that works for there.
Correct. Yeah, no, it's definitely, an enjoyable pace, but
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, any pointers for anybody that finds themselves in a situation like yours where they have a bunch of different turf types on the property? Like, I think there's a lot of guys that find, whether even if it's not the fairways, but it's the rough, that they're managing all different types. Like, how do you design a fertility program? Like, let's talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, no. So that's a great question, because I've learned so much in the last, I've been at Rutgers now for, I can't believe it's almost 2.5 years.
There you go.
And one of the biggest things I've learned the most about is fairy ring. It's definitely something that, from what other people have told me, and that's kind of always been around in the shoulder months, in the spring, in the fall, maybe lingers in the summer here and there. And when you look up fairy ring, and how do you get it? What are the things that typically require for it to be prevalent, and then how do you treat it? There's different levels. There's some that's just superficial. It's not going to kill any grass. It might discolor, whatever. And then, in a month or two, kind of fare out. But, to me, cultivation practices and wetting agents has been monumental, because that is something we've done in the last 12 months, more so, especially high rate of wetting agents, especially when you might have, a higher organic matter percentage in that thatch layer, I think has been huge in reducing the fairy ring.
Okay, so tell me more, because a lot of people are battling this.
So,
and where have you seen success? Because what I know about fairy ring is that they are the fungal agent is in the Basidiomyces family, and they're like a lignous-loving root zone fungus. So thatch is a major thing that, and then also that the response, that the fairy ring response is really brought on quite often by big swings of moisture.
I was literally
high moisture to low swings.
It's funny, because obviously there's a lot of golf maintenance forums on Facebook and stuff, guys exchanging ideas, and there was somebody talking about fairy ring, and I was reading it, and one guy mentioned that he had seen it more often when he was wet, and then somebody else said, well, it's actually the quite opposite for me. I see it when it's the most dry. And for me, that's when I would definitely say I see it, is when we're really, maybe on the tail end of a wetting agent application, or hadn't had rain in a while. That's when I start to see it. But the difference for me this season is I've always gone, we don't have fertigation. I don't have any wetting agents being injected into the irrigation system. So, what we put out as far as applications is what we get. And I've always just kind of gone at lower rates with my preventative fairway sprays, And this past season, we did separate sprays, higher rates, watered in on the spot. And that's the other thing too, is, choosing your wetting agent. A lot of, good wetting agents have to be watered in right away. There's a lot of good ones that don't, but when you start getting at a high rate, when it's going to be 90 degrees and you have 200 carts driving on it, that's a little bit of a different scenario. So we went the higher rate, separate application, water in right away, and I mean I've seen a very little bit on some of the honestly probably sloped areas where maybe anything didn't take, but I mean it was a noticeable difference.
So the ability to maintain a consistent moisture in the root zone really was the difference maker, you think? But in order to do that, you needed to change your approach with using the wetting agent, you're saying?
I think so.
You couldn't just kind of assume that it was going to get to where you wanted it to be. You singled it out and you did everything you could to put it exactly where you wanted it to be.
I would definitely agree with that statement. I do think it's hard to make these kind of conclusions, only, because, every year is so different, in regards to, precipitation and in that regard. But, obviously this year kind of being a little bit more of a wetter year compared to the prior, where we were we had less than a half inch of rain for, 10 weeks in the middle of the summer. So, and it was 100 every day. So I think, you really have to consider all factors, but I would definitely say that was the noticeable difference, because that was the only thing that I changed, and we saw that difference on the property.
There you go. Yeah. All things relative, nothing's relative. I get it.
Yeah.
Like it was a different weather patterns and everything. Last summer's drought was miserable.
Oh my gosh. We also we lost our pressure maintenance pump in June.
Oh.
So we're just running with our two main pumps, and it was that was a challenge, but we got through it.
I feel for so many other parts of the country, because we actually had a pretty good weather year this year, but there was a lot of other parts of the country, Texas, Oklahoma,
some of those heat stretches. Oh my gosh. I mean, at nighttime it was 100.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I can't even imagine.
For 4 or 5 months. Yeah, miserable. So, yeah, dude. Well, I really like that you dove into the specifics there on how you managed Fairy Ring, and what you saw as a real difference maker. Because I think a lot of people have that same issue. So what about cultivation? Because you also said cultivation, I believe, was important.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, so we've always, since I've been there, we've solid tined. We were kind of in the process of switching out some old equipment with some new equipment and waiting for some new things to come in. And we didn't have the equipment and manpower to core the fairways in house. We did have the fairways cored contracted this past season, but we just solid tined twice a year for from when I got there. And it was, I don't know, like I said, from the wetting agent standpoint was the only thing I changed up. My fertility did not change, and my plant protectant fungicide program did not change. Obviously different rotation of chemicals, but we weren't going with anything extra specifically for Fairy Ring, if you will.
And EarthWorks wise, you mentioned fertility. You utilize 822 out there.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's one of my favorite apps of the year. We actually we've done it fairly late, because being ammonium sulfate, one of the
right,
releasing the best in cold temperatures. We typically would put it out, I want to say, sometime in the beginning of November, and we went about 2 weeks earlier this year, and the response has just been unbelievable.
We caught a really nice weather here, and it was
the thing about it's not only the the green up going kind of instantly from the ammonium sulfate, but it's you get the green up, but you don't get the surge of growth.
I love it,
and that's what I look for, because this is obviously we're slowing down, and growth regulators, ryegrass growing like crazy in the summer. I kind of have to manage that, and it's really a nice tool this time of year, and actually it's really worked out every year. I like to time it so that I put the 822 out when I'm due for my next fairway application, and it, for the most part, kind of with this window, in cooler temperatures, kind of gets me that extra 2 to 4 weeks, getting that nitrogen out, and maybe knocking down maybe a little bit of mycelium here or there, and getting me that extra week or two for my spray window.
Okay, so just to clarify, you mean like when you're due up for your next fungicide app?
Correct.
Or like what probably winds up being your last, maybe?
Yeah, or that,
or
one
the
of
last.
the last. Correct.
Yeah, and you're able to let those two things piggyback off each other and work together.
So exactly. So we did the 822 last week, and we were well due, from a preventative standpoint, to spray the fairways, and came in this week, kind of scouting the property, expecting to maybe just see a little bit of breakthrough here or there. But I mean, it was still cold. Yeah, I mean, it upticked at the end of the week, but it was it just really puts us in a good spot, getting at that ammonium sulfate to push us through.
Awesome. Good deal. Yeah, man, that's perfect. So you'll be getting ready to close the place down, and you'll do some winter work and get it ready for them to do it all again in March.
Yeah. So definitely.
Do you see the response from the plant in the early spring from this late application of 822 as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
For sure. I feel like it really gives us that quick green up in the spring to really
because they're trying to get back out there and play.
For sure. Especially right when about that same time where we're going to start going back out and either pulling cores, solid tining, top dressing, what have you. It has really been beneficial.
Yeah, nice. So anything lined up for winter work?
A lot of tree work. There's going to be a lot of tree work.
Nice.
And
you got the okay from everybody. You're ready to go.
Yeah, no, my boss Lisa, she's super supportive of everything that we're trying to do. And it's we're not just cutting down trees to cut down trees. It's really to improve the growing environment of certain greens. Because a lot of these white pines have just they're compromising the root structure of the greens, and shade for 6, 7, 8 hours is just not good, and we're really trying to kind of open those up, get some air movement, get some sunlight, and there's definitely going to be at least one, maybe 2 greens rounds that are a little bit different.
Great.
Come next season.
They'll play different, you think?
Absolutely, for sure.
Great.
Yeah. Outside of that, definitely a little bit of drainage work. Kind of a little bit of a XGD style in a couple approach areas. Really just piggyback. So they did a course-wide drainage project 6 months prior to me coming on board in 2021, and so there's just a few areas and some fine turf that we want to kind of expand upon, and because the one thing is we don't have cart pass all the way around, and in order to allow carts out there sooner, we just got to alleviate some of these areas.
Great.
Yeah.
Make it more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All the good work that you're doing, it's really good. Wonderful, man. Dude, I think we got into some really cool specifics. Also, great history of Rutgers Golf Course, and cool background on yourself. And again, I really think it's so cool that you've got your experience, all the different places you've been. You've really you've gotten to see some really cool management styles and also locations. Like, yeah, you've been on some cool properties.
The whole Garden State.
Yeah, the whole
sure.
Garden State and Nevillewood.
Yep.
And you were almost at the Olympic Club, which would have been a whole nother wild.
that was
path.
a very tough decision. It just really came down to
that's a whole different world out there.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
But I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason.
Yes. All right, man. Well, I'll catch you in Somerville. I'll catch you there in Piscataway. And thank you so much for coming on the EarthWorks podcast.
I appreciate you having me on. This has been a great afternoon.
All right, buddy. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll catch you next time here on the EarthWorks podcast.